Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary. Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day and enjoy Chany and Andy's episode of what to do when the kids come along. It could be really difficult, but it could also make your marriage amazing. I'm really excited for today's guest, a Hasidic wife, author, and speaker who teaches women how to love, value, and celebrate themselves so that way they can be loved, valued, and celebrated by others. Thank you so much, Chany Rosengarten, for being here. You want to start by telling us how you got into this space?
I came from a place of the total opposite. I came from not valuing myself at all. And I didn't know that. Like, that was just my norm. And I thought, like, people who do value themselves are stupid, because I thought that I was being very cautious and intelligent about it. And I didn't know that there was a different way. The things that I was seeing were the effect of not valuing myself. So my marriage was really painful. My parenting was incredibly painful. Like, I was just trying to do the right thing, guilting myself, shaming myself, feeling a disconnect from my children, trying. So my parenting was really rough. My finances, like, I was getting paid so little. We were barely managing to pay the rent. So all of these, I was overeating all the time to numb my emotion. All of these things were the effects of not valuing myself. And I was struggling so much. At some point, I was really like, this isn't working. I don't know what's going on. And I remember friends saying, like, what do all of these things have in common? I was like, this isn't working and that isn't working. And she said, the one thing they have in common is you. It's your marriage, your parenting. You're in the center of this. So when you take care of yourself, like, I understood when I will start really caring for myself, these things will take care of itself. And they did. The first thing I did was just caring for myself, like caring for the pain that I was in, having the compassion for myself. And from those actions, the value came, the appreciation came, the respect for myself came. Yeah, that's how I got into it.
That's cool. So you just said, okay, I'm in the middle of all this and I want to start caring for myself. Now that's going from one extreme to the other extreme. How are you able to start actually caring for yourself?
So for me, it was reaching out to people, right? I couldn't do it on my own. The extent of what I knew was what I knew. Like, I had been beating myself down for so many years. That was all I knew. And my friends, honestly, were the type of people that belonged in that circle of people who beat themselves down, because we were all comfortable with each other. I had to step out of what I knew, and I had to say to other people who seemed to, yes, have what I started wanting and saying, this isn't working, what do I do? And the people that I reached out to were my guides. So finding those people who were where I was and had gotten out, that was what was my starting point.
What did your husband think of? Like, all of a sudden you're going and changing completely who you are?
Right. He didn't like it. He didn't like it, especially because when I started out in the process that I took, it was a little bit volatile. Like, I was pushing. I was like, hey, I do deserve better. And like, I was learning something new. It was like a baby walking. We don't walk with grace when we start walking. So I was trying to respect myself, but I wasn't doing it gracefully at all. And from his side, the dynamics were changing. Like, he had been comfortable with the way things were, and I was deciding to change things. So he was like, what in the world is happening? And he pushed back. In my story, I was desperate enough, and I had the people holding my hand who were like, you do what you need to do, right? But I've seen women going in both directions. We either back off or we keep going. If we keep going long enough, we both get the grace to do it gracefully so that it doesn't affect other people in the way that it affected my husband. And also, it's okay, right? It's okay. When dynamics change, it's like a boat that's rocking. It rocks, right? But eventually, it evens out. So at that point, I was begging him to join me. I was like, come to therapy, do this, do that. I'm doing all these things, do all these things. And he was not interested. At this point, he is a person who values spirituality, personal growth. Like, he does all that stuff. I didn't have to invite him. All I needed to do was do my work enough that I could back off from him and say, you do you. And then he did what he needed to do. So
Literally, like we try to push against the wall and they just pull back even more, and you just give them their space, then they go and do what they want to do. And then it's that. Did your kids notice the change in their mother?
So my kids were young. I was lucky in that sense. I didn't feel lucky because I was like 22, 24 years old. And I felt that my life was over. Like I felt old, ancient, depressed, like sorry for myself. It was very painful. And I was like, at least other people live in like bliss for a long time, you know? But on the other hand, I was getting 50-year-old women who were starting out and like trying to heal. And they were like, you are so lucky. You started off at 20, you know? So my kids were young. They were feeling it. What I know about children is it's not so much what we tell them, it's how we are, right? So they were responding. I was going through, there was shakiness in my life. Like it was hard. I was transitioning and they were feeling it. Like they were also transitioning. I was thinking they're wild or whatever. It was me, you know, I was wild, not externally possibly, but in my life I was. So yeah, they definitely settled down when I settled down. They definitely felt it, but they were young enough that they transitioned together with.
So how do they view you now compared to other mothers? Do they see you as like, oh my goodness, my mother is so awesome? And what do they think?
Well, there was a point, that was like about 3-4 years ago, where my kids were like, you are such a good mother. Like you are so understanding. And they were like, you know, there are mothers who wouldn't do this. And at that point, I really appreciated hearing that feedback because it gave me back that acknowledgement that I was on the right path. At this point, it's very normal, right? And I think that back then, I needed to give myself that reassurance that what I was doing was the right thing, and I got it from them. I think children are just a mirror of who we are. It's amazing. At this point, I don't need the assurance. I don't see myself as better than other people. I think that we're all on this path, right? We're all trying to figure it out. We're all struggling with different things at different times. The fact that I did the work I did at 20 doesn't preclude me from doing other work as I grow up. Like, so I don't see myself as more special. I think my kids don't either, right? It is what it is. Like, we are who we are.
You give them that vibe, so then that's what they think. Exactly like you said.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants to start caring for themselves more, valuing for themselves more, what should they start doing?
I'm going to suggest what worked for me, which is reach out to people that you respect. There are people who will literally take your hand and guide you, right? So that's number one. You don't have to. So I was sharing also. I was also reading books by experts and reaching out to experts. I was also sharing with my friends who were kind of, you know, hearing what I was saying. At some point, they were like, I don't know who you are anymore. We can't be friends, you know? So I did lose
That
some.
is what happens.
Yeah. It was a painful loss. I was like, I still like you, but you know what? Like things, you know, I did change, and I'll take that. But reaching out beyond your circle of friends, there are women who are where you want to be. So if you know where you want to be, and you can start with just pain-free, find those people. The people who are already where they want to be are happy to help, right? They're happy to extend the hand back. The people who are not happy to extend a hand back is because they're still floundering. Like that's generally the rule of thumb. So reach out. People are happy to help. Like the other thing was education. Like I educated myself. What I knew was what I knew, but I was able to learn. There's so many podcasts, books, you know, social media is full of people who are sharing their wisdom every single day. So getting those people and then really just committing to the process. It's a process. It takes time. It takes work. You don't always see the results. Sometimes it gets harder before it gets easier because, like we said, that shift, that like rocking of the boat is scary. But if you're committed, if you know where you're going, or if you know where you're no longer willing to be, that's your commitment to yourself, and you'll get there. The answers don't always come at the beginning, right? You're starting at a road. You don't know what the end of the road looks like, but if you keep going down that road, you know that you're getting away from where you are towards where you're going. So just that commitment to keep on the path.
Literally, like you're staying on your focus, your mind knows this is what you're going, and then it's going to automatically give you more tools and more resources to go and get there because you know where you're headed to. Not that it's not going to be hard and you might go roundabout ways and wished it was easier, but you will be heading in the right direction. It could be really painful sometimes. What did you do to get through that pain, to realize, I know I'm not going back there. I know where I want to go, but right now it's just so hard.
I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself, but really supportive people, like being able to reach out to people and be like, this is so painful. That's number one.
Okay, guys, you got the message. You need to make sure you create those supportive people for yourself in your life so that way you could get through this.
Number two, crying. Like I was so stoic when I was, when I was kind of hating on myself. I was so stoic. Like I could do everything. I'll do whatever it takes, I'll eat a pound of chocolate and just forge through this challenge. Like I'll be fine. And crying to me was scary. I felt so alone and so broken. But really seeing crying as a way that I was loving myself, I was soothing myself, I was releasing pain. It's a treat, right? If I need it, that's the treat I can give myself. Really just being there with compassion to soothe myself, because life sometimes gets painful. And if we show up for the pain, cry it out, really show up for it, not ignore it, right? Because I can also just ignore it and go ahead. But being with the pain lets me be honest and hear myself out. And so having people to support me is one. Crying is two. Crying to someone who's listening, amazing. But I can also be that person who's listening to me crying and being like, sweetie, I see you. This is so painful. This is so hard. I really see you.
Yeah, really just being there for yourself. Now,
Yes.
How's your relationship different now than what it was before you started this journey?
It's a whole different animal. It's a whole different animal. I am able to be honest, right? Honest about who I am, what I need. I was hiding myself because I didn't like myself enough and trust that I could share who I am and still be accepted. So I'm able to be who I am, which is big. I did not have freedom. I did not give myself freedom to be who I am. So the honesty for me is big. I just show up as who I am. I'm able to be kind, compassionate, and intimate to my husband because I am able to do that for myself. If I can see myself, right, even if we're having a conflict, right, if I take me and I care for me, understand me, love me, see what's hurting me, see what I want. So I'm taken care of. I can then also see him. I can see him for who he is. He has a different perspective. He has different pains that he's bringing to the table, right? So my ability to care for myself has allowed me to be caring for him. So I'm able to see him, to be present for him, and it's nicer.
That's for sure. Literally going back to what you said in the beginning, it's all about you, the whole thing. Now, what have you seen is the biggest challenge from people that you deal with and things that you do, the biggest challenge people have in marriage?
So, the circumstances are all different, but what I've come to understand from everyone is that we deeply want to be valued. We want to be loved in a way that it's not enough for us to be receiving the 5 love languages, right? We don't want to just get stuff. We want that who we are should be loved, that we should be the most important person, that our spouse should desire us, want to spend time with us, want, if we're getting those gifts, we want that note, because what the note it's not the note, it's the, I want you, I value you, I respect who you are, I see you. We really want to be loved in a way where all of us is appreciated and valued. And often that is not the case because people barely value themselves. So when I'm not valuing myself, I cannot value my spouse at all. Like there's nothing there to give. I don't even know the experience of it when I'm not in the experience of it. So most people are there, right? Most people are locked away even from themselves and therefore from their spouse. It's easy to give a nice word or a gift or flowers, but it's very hard to be seeing myself enough to see my spouse and say, I appreciate you. So what I've heard from many women is that hunger to be acknowledged fully, to be valued deeply, which is hard to get when our spouse isn't able to do that for themselves.
Yes. So if I value myself, let's say, right, I go through this process, I learn to value myself, and I could value my husband, but he doesn't value himself. What do I do then?
So we can't make anyone do anything, right? That much I've learned. But when we really value ourselves, that hunger subsides. That hunger of please acknowledge and love and value me because I need someone to do it. You're the one. You're doing it for you. So that value is there. And when we come as a valued person to the relationship, that those flowers, those good words, whatever it is that our spouse is giving us, it's just serving to confirm what we already know. It's not a bottomless pit that I'm like, please value me. It's I value myself. So whatever small crumbs you're throwing at me, thank you. I'll take that. Like definitely, that definitely resonates with, right? And the other piece is that when we're able to do that for our spouse because we've done it for ourselves, they may or may not be open to it, but it's a new experience. And we're inviting our spouse into the experience of value. So they may not be at the point where they're giving it back to us, but there is a shift in the dynamics where I'm saying, I'm valuing myself. I can value you. And something's very small, it's very subtle. Nobody's even talking about it, but he's being valued and things are changing. There's a new energy. There's a new feeling that he's feeling of, oh, I'm seen. So what does he do with that then? That's up to him, right? But usually the dynamics change in a very subtle but very magical way.
Yes, it is really magical. So for someone who wants to start this journey now, is there any specific tip or exercise you could give them so that way they can start valuing themselves?
One very basic thing. It's basic, but it's actually, it's amazing, you know.
Basic doesn't mean it does not powerful.
Right. Which is just throughout the day, right? In the morning, in the afternoon, like, I don't know, 5 times a day, whenever you can, once a day, once a week.
Start once a week and then you'll get throughout the day.
Right. Name your feeling to yourself. I am feeling grateful and excited to be here talking to you. When we name our feeling, you know, I'm feeling sad or frustrated. I'm feeling frustrated because I drove my son out carpool and I had 0 gas in the car. So I was just like on adrenaline because I was afraid. I'm just saying, name your emotion, right? And often, like I just said, like I'm excited and grateful. I'm still on that adrenaline rush from the carpool. There's so much going on. Like we have so many emotions. When we stop and just name one emotion that you're feeling, what you're doing is you're acknowledging yourself. You're saying, I'm checking in with you. How are you, sweetie? Right? You're checking in with yourself and you're being honest about what is your life experience right now? What does it feel like to be you? And this is just one way of caring for yourself, valuing yourself, acknowledging who you are and where you're at. So it's a very powerful, very simple tool of grounding yourself in, sweetie, I love you. I care for you.
Yes, it also makes you much more self-aware, understanding why you're having these emotions. First, it starts with labeling your emotions. I am feeling frustrated. I am mad. I am grateful. I am joyful. You're labeling and identifying the emotion. That is the first step. Then you can go even deeper and understand, why am I feeling like this? Is this because something happened right now? Or is it because it triggered something that happened in the past? And really getting to know yourself. But that comes later on. Okay, now, Chany, you wrote the book, The Boundary Is You. Anyone who's listening to this, even if they hadn't read the book, knows probably what you're talking about. Let's just get more specific. How can a person actually start putting boundaries?
Okay, so in the book, I teach the LAN method. The LAN method stands for love, authority, negotiation, and direction. Love is love the person you are, even if that person who you are is someone who is, in your opinion, not worthy of love, right? I mean, I thought that I'm just so messed up, I don't deserve love. Maybe you can't love the person that you are. Start with just accepting who you are, right? Seeing who you are, being like, sweetie, this is who you are, right? Sometimes we make mistakes. It's okay. Can you accept who you are right now? So loving ourselves. Authority is, I get to decide what's in my life. I do not get to decide how my husband behaves. I do not get to decide how my children behave. I do not get to decide how my neighbors behave. But I do get to decide, I have authority over the things that I do, I feel, I learn, I connect with, right? You love yourself, and then you realize what's in your authority and what's in other people's authority. So you're taking out everything that's not yours, right? Your husband's bad mood, not yours. your mother-in-law's attitude towards life, not yours. You whittle it all out and you stay with you. So that's your authority. Negotiation is, how do you ask for your needs? How do you say what you need? Because for me, I was so busy thinking about how I'm going to be judged for my needs or how they're not worthy enough. If I have a need, can I acknowledge it? Can I say very simply, like, can I please have some of your time? Just, asking for your needs, and then being okay with the other person. You don't have the authority to decide if they're going to give you your need or not. So you can ask for it. They may not give it to you. But in asking, what you're doing already is saying, I'm worthy of asking for it, even if they're not going to give it to me.
Yeah,
So
we
that's
say so many
negotiation.
times no before we even ask, because we don't even ask.
Yes.
You lose out so much. Yeah.
We're afraid of asking, right? So negotiation is saying, I'm asking for the sake of honoring my need, not for the sake of getting it. Getting it can come in many different directions, but I'm going to ask for it. And direction is, where do I want to go in my life? Knowing what I want, knowing in which direction I'm going, what is my ultimate goal? If I could have the life that I want, what would that look like? So knowing where you want to go is direction. And when you have that love, authority, asking for your needs and knowing where you're going, you are you. That's where you start. It's powerful.
Yes, the land method is amazing because it really gives you everything you need to create those boundaries, starting from right now, giving yourself love, all the way to taking you to the direction that you want to go. Now, Chany, what's the best relationship advice you could give us?
I'm going to think about relationship advice that was given to me. What helped me? Honestly, celebrate yourself, right? Love yourself. Everything else follows like a train behind the first car. Like, you love yourself, everything else comes to you and pulls right after you.
Okay, that's making it sound that like everything life afterwards has no more challenges.
Well, loving yourself is challenge enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's still struggle, but imagine struggling when you are also against yourself. When you are enemy of yourself and both of you are also fighting life, like, that's a lot. But when you are at least joining forces with yourself, the power in that relationship you have with yourself gives you so much energy for whatever comes. Life is challenging. Nobody's taking away the challenges, but how do you deal with them? What does it do to you? How are you affected? How are you able to stand inside of pain and still soothe yourself and still support yourself, still love yourself? So that's where life can be challenging, but who are you and how do you take care of yourself?
I love that. I love that so much. Do you think that your kids have gotten that message from you already?
My kids have such amazing boundaries that I'm surprised. Like, I'm like, who are you? I didn't know that when I was growing up. They intuitively know, right, about their own space, about their own feelings, about what they like and dislike. They're able to communicate it in a way that I wasn't able to. That's all the gifts that they got from my work. I do want to say, like, in my parenting, I struggled with my parenting. And the way I healed my parenting was to realize I am not a perfect parent. Like, I am as perfect as I am. I'm perfect for my children because they're mine and they're in my life and they chose to be in my family. I believe that their souls chose to be in the family. And so it is what it is, right? I am not the mother that I thought was the ideal mother, like that kind of has cookies and milk on the table when they walk in from school, And they were going through challenges. Like, they were born when I was barely 18, 19, 20, and they went through that whole transition with me. I can't say that it didn't affect them. I'm grateful for everything that they learned just because I learned it. Like, that's a miracle. But I'm not going to take away the fact that they struggled because I struggled. Both of these are true. And my work as a mother has been to accept that they will have to do their work just like I did my work. Like, they were affected. I'm not saying that they didn't experience their own traumas and their own experiences. And it's okay, right? They're human beings on this earth. They have the opportunity to do the work. They've seen me doing my work, and it has certainly affected them. But I am not beyond having the compassion for that. Like, I have compassion. They went through what I went through, and it certainly affected them. So I'm just grateful for the good things that affected them too.
Yeah, well, they got a lot of good things, because I think no matter what, no matter how amazing your childhood is, everyone has some sort of baggage or some things that they went through, and they have to figure out afterwards in life. But here, they not only went through something, they also got something so amazing. So even though they'll have to go and figure that out, so many tools, and they know what to do. Awesome, guys. If you haven't read The Boundary Is You, you know you should be reading it. And follow Chany on Instagram at Chany_Rosengarten_. I'll put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Chany. This was awesome.
I'm so grateful for this conversation. It was a fun conversation. Thanks for having me.
Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, and have an awesome day.